92.5.
Power Station Radio Gold 90.5 FM. A very good morning to you. You're welcome to yet another edition of Alhaji And Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. This morning, there is so much on our table to discuss within the next 4 hours, and I'll urge you to stay with me and not simply just be a passive listener of the show, but be an active listener of the show by participating in the entire discussion. And you can do so on social media using Twitter and then Facebook. On Twitter and Facebook, kindly do look for the handle at Samuel Eshen GH. The Eshen is spelled ESHUN. You find me there, you follow me, or you add me, and then you start sending your comments through. Gladly would I read these comments if they get to me. This morning, as always, I'll take the time to take you through the headlines of the newspapers we have received this morning, and then move on to share with you the topics we are tabling for discussion today. On the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper is a story: Otumfuo storms Jubilee House. And it's got a picture of His Excellency the President and Otumfuo Oseitu in a hearty chat on the front page of the paper. 11 vie for President for NDC 2020. It's got a picture of John Mahama, Kuku Rickethagen, Alban Babin, and Sylvester Mensah on the front page. Eastern Regional Deputy Minister resigns, and abortion doctor grabbed at Ashoman, all on the front page of the paper. The Ghanaian Times has on its front page a similar caption like that of the Daily Guide newspaper, with a picture of His Excellency the President interacting with Otumfuo Oseitu II, and it says, "I will work to develop entire country, President. I will work to develop entire country, President. Sanitation brigades at last. MMDAs to employ personnel from next month. Court throws out case against conversion of KNUST halls. And Ebola in Congo, city surrounded by rebels. And Ghana to provide state barrier for Kofi Annan," all on the front page of the paper. Also, fake doctor nabbed on the front page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Daily Graphic has on its front page state funeral for Kofi Annan on September 13th. And let's emulate Asante Hene Ochehene. President Akufo-Addo says so. BEC results out, 83 cancelled, 2,061 withheld. Eastern Regional Deputy Minister resigns, Samuel Ayete to replace him, all on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. And finally, the Spectator newspaper has on its front page a picture of Jackie Appiah, and it says she advises women, male child desire causing high birth rate. And I'm grateful to Ghanaians that from ISM, and you can check your land title registration or in today's edition of the Spectator newspaper for this morning. We are tabling for discussion some dominant issues this week. And one of them is a thorough discussion of the fallout of the maiden IPAC meeting and the referendum on the creation of additional 6 regions and associated issues arising. We would also seek to critically analyze former President John Dramani Maham's declaration to contest the flag bearership position of the NDC and allied concerns. And if we do have the time, we will discuss the concerns raised by the minority in Parliament on the $2 billion Sino-Hydro Chinese deal and its impact on Ghana's economy. Those are the issues we are tabling for discussion this morning. And to help me do justice to these issues would be Mr. Kusipra Jr. He is the managing editor of the Insight newspaper. Sampi Ali is former Ghana's High Commissioner to India. Professor Nino Doona, a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana. And Comrade Murtala Ibrahim Mohammed, former Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry and MP for Antony in the Northern Region, would also be joining us this morning to discuss these issues. The show is proudly brought to us by Ines Fly, also brought to us by Ankoti Premium Malt, and also the Tango Fruit Juice. All of these from TT Brothers Company Limited. They are the sole distributors of these products, and also Apollonia City. As we go along this morning, we'll tell you much more about these companies who are sponsoring the show this morning. We are live on our website, www.radiogold905.com. You can also listen to us if you install our application on your phone. That's for you to go to the Google Play Store and search for Radio Gold 90.5. Install that application on your phone and you're good to go. You can listen to us anywhere in the world. We've got affiliates spread all over the country who are also picking this feed live on their networks as well. So you can listen to us live on these affiliates as well. But you can listen to us as well on the TuneIn application today. If you have the application installed on your phone and search for Radio Gold 90.5 FM. That's by way of introducing you to the show this morning. We'll set the ball rolling by looking at our first issue, the first IPAC meeting that was held by the Electoral Commission. The fact that the EC chairperson herself was missing and the NDC did not turn up for that meeting. I'll start with Mr. Sampiale, who is former Ghana's High Commissioner to India. Good morning, sir.
Well, good morning, Mr. Shen, and then thank you to your good morning and thank you to your listeners and viewers. Mr. Shen, before I come to this topic, I want to refer to your interview with Mr. Ben Epson.
Okay.
And to assure him that, contrary to his views, the NDC, as of now, is more united than any political party in Ghana. I might consider, throughout my life as a member of the NDC, there have been challenges, but the NDC was not as organized as today. That is in terms of branch organization up to the national level. And Mr. Ben Epson and all others who are always thinking that the NDC has a problem, they must better refer and rehearse their nose, examine the facts. The issue of the funder should not be a kakabotomy that is hidden, and anytime NDC is making progress, somebody goes to bring it up. Nobody in the NDC has ever insulted the former president or said anything contrary to the former president. The former president sometimes makes his views known, and we in the NDC know how to accommodate the views. The fact that his wife is no longer with us is not a matter that haunts us. It is a matter of personal choice and her personal ambition that he also wants to form a political party and win an election and become a president. And that one does not haunt us in any way. Again, Mr. Ishen, the fact that it is a human organization, the NDC would have various groups that support various ideas, one idea or the other. But as far as I'm concerned, those of us who are in the NDC and actually have boots on the ground, we know that the NDC is more united than ever. The fact that we have now made the NDC so attractive that now we have more than one presidential candidate or two presidential candidates should tell you how attractive the NDC has become. Never mind some of the fringe comments some of the presidential candidates make, but that has no reflection whatsoever on the unity or disunity of the party. So I want to assure all those who has made it their client call all the time to talk about disunity in the party to stop forthwith, because that is not supported by any fact or evidence. We know what we want. We have absolute faith in anybody who is going to contest, and then we would do justice to the elections the way we want it. Nobody can influence NDC to select who should be our presidential candidate. We know what we are about. John Mahama, like any other candidate, is qualified to be a candidate, and we evaluate it accordingly. So please, all those who have made it their personal game plan to always bring disunity in the party, please stop. If you are not a registered voter of the NDC, please leave us to do our reorganization. Mr. Shen, there have been some happenings in Ghana in recent times concerning the Electoral Commission. And most of the facts are known, and therefore I need not bring them back. But the fact is that the elected, who is this? The elected or the appointed Electoral Commissioner, who in the person of Charlotte Osei has been removed from office under very bizarre conditions. An electoral commissioner is removed because of procurement offenses. Meanwhile, in this government, there's a barrage of procurement offenses. But we live to see. We live to see. Then they bring in a woman who many of us have associated her with the IEA. And to those of us in the NDC have seen this IEA not as a neutral referee in the affairs of managing the political discussions in this country. But be it as it may, the president decides that she will bring this woman who is known to be associated with many of the things he does to be the electoral commissioner. The first time this woman attempts to call an IPAC meeting, the IPAC meeting, Dr. Doguna, you know how important these IPAC meetings are and what role they have played in shaping out the political destiny of this country. But then this woman decided that he was going to call an IPAC meeting. The first time he was going to call an IPAC meeting. Listen, who dresses shabbily to his or mother-in-law's house? Who does that? You are going to your mother-in-law's house for the first time. Your boyfriend is going to introduce you to the mother. Then you dress so shabbily. You have problems with your appointment. The first time you are going to call an IPAC meeting, look, you send text messages without agenda and call that text message the agenda emergency meeting. What is emergency about this without an agenda? Lo and behold, it turned out that there's going to be a meeting to discuss such crucial matters like the creation of the regions. And I think Mrs. Jane Mensah should revise her notes about what he knows about the IPAC. It is a body that is so important that brings on board all the political parties so that issues that would have created political tension in this country are discussed there. Mrs. Jane Mensah should have known that the creation of new regions are of very sensitive nature. In addition, there are people in the NDC who for ethnic reasons, support the creation of the regional new regions. There are some chiefs who, for various reasons, like we also want our regional House of Chiefs, also support it. Then there are those who genuinely believe that a new creation of new regions may contribute to the development of Ghana. But the question is this: experiences in the creation of district assemblies, many district assemblies, have not as of now yielded any positive development on the new district that they created. If you visit some of the newly created districts, the theory that creation of a new region will solve the problem is challenged. Now, let's for instance take the region, my region, the Northern West region. You understand? Mm-hmm. You are talking about the Sehuyosos and the rest, who say that it's too far away to come to Sekendi. All right, and therefore they want their own region. What about Dunkwa, Diaso, and the rest, who are on the top of the central region with the same distance and the latitude? They are almost on the same latitude. Sehuyoso and the Dinkwa are on the same latitude, so the distance issue is also a problem. I would have rather thought that they would have added Dunkwa, to that region, so that the distance issue would have been resolved. But that is not the case. Again, they are saying that there's too much power in Sekendi Takoradi because the regional minister is there, and it's far away. It's far away from them. In this country, we all know that the regional ministers only play coordinating roles. They only play coordinating roles. They don't have regional councils. They have regional coordinating councils. They only coordinate the district assemblies. But even the challenge there is that the monies that the district assemblies should take to develop their country, their district, are not being sent. The district assemblies are dependent on common fund, and the common fund now, it is a problem generating enough money in the consolidated fund, and then they have even been capped. The president said he was going to give $1 million to each constituency. It has not gone. Question that people should start asking is: at what cost are we administering this small country Ghana? America's population, India's population, China's population is over a billion. What is the number of their ministers? What is the number of their regions? So if you add the Council of State, you add the ministers, you have the district assembly, district chief executive, and all. The question is, how much is the burden of the taxpayer on the taxpayer to administer this country? You know, we as a country must start to question some of the utopian ideas that we are using to manage this country. We are having challenges with the senior high schools problem. Then you go and introduce another cost money sapping program like the regional creation of new regions. We are going to have a referendum. How much is that referendum to the cost of it to the poor taxpayer? Now you, Mrs. Jane Mensah, you are going to your husband's house for the first time. Husband, I mean, and you send text message to your stakeholders. When they challenge, you send them a letter, giving them just 45 minutes to attend an IPAC meeting. Never in the history of electoral commission. However incompetent Charlotte Osei may have been, he never committed such an error of giving political parties 45 minutes to come and discuss any issue, even if it was about the colors of a party's flag. Much more so to the discussion of referendum in this country. What I was thinking was that in inviting the district political parties to the meeting, you would have added an agenda, and in the agenda, the report of the commission, the commission that went round, or the group that went round, you have added and asked the parties to give you their viewpoint, so that we're going to discuss the viewpoint. Nothing has happened. Nothing has happened. When the parties went, no such report was there. By the way, let me refer you to the Constitution. You know, the president has set up a ministry of for the creation of the regions. But this is clearly at variance with Article 5 and 2 of the Constitution. It says it must be a commission. When the president received the petition from a region to set up a region, then the president would have to set up a commission, not a ministry. The commission will go around, and when it is gathered enough evidence, they will make that report available to the president. Then the president, after satisfying himself that, oh, yeah, there's reason for the creation of the regions, refer this matter to the Council of State. So there's no place for the ministry whatsoever. Yet, Ghanaians are paying for the bureaucracy of that ministry. You see, add this to the senior high school cost, creation of the regional ministries, offices cost, and now this ministry to cost. The poor taxpayer is overburdened. Now the issue of whether or not people in the region will be sensitized enough to take part in the referendum. From the way things are happening, I want to caution that any attempt to eliminate or prevent people from taking part in this referendum will be very disastrous, because people have very serious emotions attached to this creation. I have seen some text messages going around and on WhatsApp saying that in some regions they have suspended the issuance of birth certificate. I've also seen that messages going around that some class of Ghanaians are being asked to bring their identity cards or some other information for them to be issued with birth certificate. Whereas others, if you are Agbovi or some other name, they say you are a Togolese. Please, 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 Mr. President, if you win election by falsehood, you will be governing problems. If you win this election, it is not the manipulation at the Electoral Commission that will win the election for you. And no Ghanaian who holds the voter's ID card, I shall mark my word though, no Ghanaian who has been issued a voter ID card will sit down for you to prevent him from voting in any election. You can't do that. So continue with your manipulations. And then the day of election, let people queue, and when they go there, say, no, because you don't have Ghana card, so you cannot vote. Then you see what will happen. You see what will happen. I'm not sure the president has any intention of, shepherding this country into any chaos. I'm not sure that is what the president will want to do. But we are smelling bad rats with the way the Electoral Commission is being manipulated. The musical chairs of moving very competent Charlotte and bringing in somebody who is known and connected with MPP as the Electoral Commissioner. The Ghana card palaver all points out that there's a clear attempt at manipulating the 2020 elections. But please, Mr. President, you swore a note to protect the integrity of this country. Make sure you don't take any such decisions. Make sure you remember that the people that you think you have put up in the form of the vigilantes or whatever are the only people who have machos in this country. Any such attempt will be met boot to boot, arm to arm by the NDC. So in conclusion, I think that Jane Mensah's first encounter with IPAC is a catastrophic failure. Shameful as it is. You call a meeting of such important political parties and then you give them 45 minutes notice. You call a meeting of IPAC, no agenda, no attachment to go and discuss referendum. It's shameful. And you, Jane Mensah, you need to apologize to the good people of this country. And then try to establish some confidence that in spite of what all of us said against you, you are capable of performing that job. As for the creation of the regions, the reasons given, if the committee report is given to us, we shall all interrogate it and give our comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your submission this morning. That brings us to 24 minutes to the top of the hour, 10 here on your power station, Radio Gold 90.5 FM. You're listening to Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. Bed bugs are dangerous pests that cause sleepless, tiredness, body rashes, anemia, due to blood loss and general discomfort to humans. Unfortunately, they are so difficult to get rid of. They spread in mattresses, pillows, bags, lockers, clothes, and even in hidden places. They must be dealt with. Choose the Ines Fly Bed Bug Solution to get rid of the bed bugs easily. The Ines Fly Bed Bug Solution exterminates bed bugs dealing with minor and major infestations, effective for up to 6 weeks, and is safe for humans. Spray the bed bugs out today with the Ines Fly Bed Bugs Solution. Ines Fly recommends thorough treatment with the 10-liter ready-to-use EM House solution for institutions and households with high infestation. For bulk purchases, please call 0577 701 000, 0577 701 000. Ines Fly, beautiful protection. I'll move on to Comrade Murtala Ibrahim for his thoughts on our first issue. Comrade, good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to your cherished listeners, and of course viewers too, because you are streaming on live. Let me also say good morning to my senior comrades here. Sean, I think that the NDC, and I believe that other political parties who took a particular position against the fraudulent appointment of Jane Mensah have been vindicated. We have said consistently that Jane Mensah was an MPP activist and that she was coming to do the bidding of the NPP. This argument that she wasn't at the meeting and therefore could not be blamed for whatever mishap with regards to that meeting that was called for me is bonkers, and for me it's even insulting to the intelligence of the Ghanaian people. She's the head of the Electoral Commission. of course supported by the other deputies, but she takes absolute responsibility of whatever happens at the Electoral Commission. We consistently said that she was unfit for the job. We consistently said that she was not indeed going to be a neutral arbiter. We consistently said that her role as the Electoral Commission, and knowing who she is, and her conduct at the IEA, that her leadership was going to lead to something that may not be pleasant for this country. Electoral Commissioner is supposed to be fair. Electoral Commissioner is supposed to be unbiased. Electoral Commissioner is supposed to indeed control her feelings and emotions, particularly in the discourse of political parties' activities in an election, particularly in a democracy like ours. Let no one be deceived into thinking that our democracy has grown so well that nothing can affect it. Let no one be deceived into thinking that. I have listened to the argument that is also being made by the NPP and those compromised section of the Ghanaian media and the civil society group that elections are won at the polling stations, and therefore, if MPP appoints anybody, that person cannot do anything that would affect the integrity of our electoral process. Yes, granted that that is the case, and assuming without admission that elections are won at the polling stations, but elections themselves are not events. Elections are processes, and processes would lead to the final day that people would have the opportunity to go cast their votes. And even after casting their votes, the process will continue. So let's get that very, very clearly. And we're saying this because even the ballot papers, the printing of ballot papers are going to be done by a company, and most often private entities. And the private entities are going to be awarded to contracts. And the award of those contracts are going to be supervised by the people who have been appointed. And interestingly, all of them are MPP activists. Dr. Bosman is a very good friend of mine. But there's no denying the fact that he is an avowed MPP person. There is no denying that fact, that his sympathies are with the NPP. Now, nobody could tell which political party that Mr. Dr. Afarijan was. Nobody could tell which political party Charlotte Osei was, because there was no any evidence whatsoever, either in her actions or in her writings, that was suggestive. Even the list that her sympathies were with the NDC. Yet, you had a person like Kennedy Ajapong who called this woman any names, including the frustrated and resigned woman minister for gender, who for some reasons attacked virtually everybody, yet she can't stand the heat. And she has decided that she is bound out of politics. They all questioned the woman's fidelity. This was a married woman whose fidelity was questioned, regardless the consequences, regardless the psychological trauma that she was going through as a result of people questioning her moral standing without a bupkis of evidence, regardless the feeling of those who were closer to her, particularly her husband. All these things happened. Now, we have never, as a political party, said that Jean Mensa was a prostitute, as they suggested with regards to Charlotte Osei. We never said that, because at least we are more decent than they are. We never said that. We never said that the woman was not going to be capable. We never said that. What we have said consistently is that Jean Mensa was not, and certainly could not be, a neutral arbiter. We have consistently said that Jean Mensa was not going to be fair in the discharge of her responsibilities and duties as the Electoral Commissioner. We have consistently said that Jean Mensa was not fit to do that, because the most important and significant aspects of being an electoral commissioner is to be very fair. And we have said that. We never questioned her ability. We never did that. But I know, and as was espoused by the PNC communication, the PNC, is it the general secretary, the communication director, my friend you interviewed? No, not PNC. Yes. Wilson.
Emmanuel Wilson.
Wilson had said, and it was true, that one of the biggest challenge and frustrations that he has with regards to the appointment of Jim Mensah was her human relations. And as a matter of fact, and indicated that they should check at the IEA, and they would have realized that a lot of people resigned maximum 2 years at the IEA because of the way she relates or she related to them. I don't have any evidence to prove that. But the propensity of such resignations and such departures from the IEA and the propensity of those people pointing out to how she related with them creates that fear for anybody. If you have somebody who is going to be managing the affairs and the emotions of political parties in the critical matter of taking certain decisions on our elections, I think that we should all be extremely worried. Eshon, I sat here and I said she was the relative to the First Lady. It took Kweku Baku 1 week. Kweku Baku, not Jim Mensah, not the First Lady, not the NPP, not anybody. It took Kweku Baku 1 week to sit on Peace FM and says they are not related, and that ended the story. That was why they said that he has checked and that Jim Mensah was not in any way related to Rebecca Akufo-Addo. And that ended it. What a funny country. That he said that without any buckets of evidence, and whatever he says is final. Kweku Baku has spoken the truth. I knew he was not speaking the truth. And I knew for a fact that Jim Mensah is related to Rebecca. What I was expecting was that Rebecca herself or her office would rebut. I expected Jim Mensah herself to say that it's not true. Since when did Kweku Baku become the spokesperson for Jim Mensah? Now, how difficult is it that someone who claims that he is a friend to Nanado and the family, that I made that allegation, which was a fact, that it took him almost a week to come out to deny that, because they had to find a way to respond. And ever since he made that response, people took that hook, line, and sinker. He has spoken the truth. Let Jim Mensah or Rebecca Akufo-Addo deny this. You know why? You can't deny your family relation. You can't. And it was a bait for them to deny, and we provide them with palpable and compelling evidence that they are indeed related. So we knew from onset that this woman was not going to be fair. She's an NPP activist. She's coming to do the bidding of the NPP. And the sharp difference between the NDC and the NPP in our response with regards to the appointment of Charlotte Osei and this one is that we haven't called her a prostitute. We haven't questioned her fidelity. We haven't said that she got the appointment as a result of giving out, with all due respect to the listening public, her ass. Kennedy Ajapon, including the current MPP secretary, including Otiko Jaba, all suggested, in fact, Kennedy Ajapon made a palpable statement, and this individual supported it. At the time when he made that statement, every single reasonable political party and sane person in this country and sane leaders of civil society group, including the clergy, condemned those reckless statements and attacks on Charlotte Osei. The only political party that did not raise a finger against reckless statement made by Kennedy Ajapon, supported by Otiko and their current secretary, was the NPP. I am yet to see a response officially from the NPP condemning those statements. We didn't say that to Jim Mensah because we tried to be decent. We could have done same. We didn't do that. We didn't do that because we ought to sanitize the political environment, and that you don't question people's integrity. You don't attack people's personality, without any basis. And that is the reason why we never did that. Now, what we have consistently said, that the woman is an MPP activist, the woman is not going to be fair, the woman is a relative to the First Lady, and therefore you can't appoint such a person to come and be a neutral arbiter in the discharge of our elections that are sometimes extremely emotive. To that extent, we question and we warn the president not to do that. Aside the fact that we said that she has demonstrated complete and consistent incompetence at the IEA. The NDC didn't start questioning her neutrality or questioning her bias against the NDC today. In 2008, the NDC refused to participate in the IEA debate. And I remember the super incompetent MPP communicators quickly rushed to say that President Kufuor also didn't participate in the IEA debate in 2004. And that if the basis for our question her neutrality is on the fact that we refused to participate in the IEA debate in 2008, then MPP also didn't participate in the IEA debate in 2004. Unknown to them, and because they think that Ghanaians are gullible and they can push anything down our throat, President Kufuor never cited bias as a basis for his refusal to participate in the 2004 IEA debate. President Kufuor and the MPP never raised a finger on how the woman was not neutral, on how the woman was favoring any political party, the basis on which they refused to participate in the 2004 IEA debate. We cited these things as the basis for which we were not prepared to participate in the IEA debate. At the time when the NDC was raising questions about the woman's neutrality, at the time when we accused her of being an MPP activist and seeking to serve the interests of the MPP with the IEA. By the way, the IEA was formed by the husband. The IEA was formed by the woman's husband, who is a non-MPP activist and did a lot of businesses with the MPP. When we raised those issues, we cited the reasons why we are not going to participate. At the time when we said the woman was an MPP activist and was not going to be a fair person with regards to her administration of the IEA, we had no buckets of evidence that the woman was going to be appointed electoral commissioner any day. We didn't have that evidence whatsoever. So we have been very consistent. So I am not surprised that such a thing could happen. Now, why would you invite a political party with a text message? A text message. Is it that the IEA is so under-resourced? Sorry, the Electoral Commission is so under-resourced that they can't even write letters? Is it that they can't even send emails? Because officially, you can send email. You send a text message. Assuming you send a text message, there are instances you send text messages, and from your end, it will be delivered. But from the end of the person with whom you send the text message, it will not be delivered. You send a text message inviting a political party, the largest opposition party, to attend a meeting that you describe in that text message as an emergency meeting. Only for you to send a letter 45 minutes before that meeting, inviting them to participate in a meeting that indeed ceased to be an emergency meeting and became a different meeting altogether. These are some of the issues. So they can't even pretend to be a bit neutral. They can't pretend because the MPP is in the DNA. And that is precisely why they can't do this. So the NDC was right in not participating in the IEA debate. And I really don't think that any serious political party would engage in such activity if the invitation for them to participate in the debate is done in the manner that the invitation was done. Again, on the issue of electoral processes and the issue of regional elections, these are very critical matters. Why is the MPP not interested in dividing Ashanti region? Why are they not interested in that? Why is the MPP not interested in dividing the Eastern region? We have just witnessed what happened in Eastern region when millions of the taxpayers' monies have been spent. It's a charade. The extent to which the Asantehene is so undermined that he himself publicly made pronouncement that Gabi and co were undermining his kingdom. So they think that they can pretend to do a charade. Why is the president not interested in that? And because they know that they must always appeal to the emotions of the Ghanaian people. Now, I have listened to them who said, oh, the NDC is against the creation of the division of Volta region. Why would the NDC be against that? There are people within NDC who think that the Volta region ought to be divided. There are people within the NDC who think that, no, you ought not divide the region. Why should that be the NDC's problem? Why should that be the NDC problem? People have the right to exercise their democratic, feelings per the constitution. Even within same families, within same political parties, people have that. And I agree with you when you said that my senior brother Benefton got it completely wrong. That the NDC is not united. Of course, there has never been any political party that is absolutely united. Why must you be united? You cannot be united all the time because you would have different opinions and positions on issues. What is most important is that you have a common goal. And that common goal is, how do we salvage this country from the mess that this super incompetent and super corrupt government has subjected the people of this country? How do you save this country by a government that has perfectly managed the economy, the extent to which a gallon of petrol, which was bequeathed to them at 14 cities, is now being sold at 23 cities? Perfect management of the economy. And I think that President Nana Addo and Bawumia deserve a clap, that they have managed the economy so well that we now buy a gallon of petrol 23 cities. That they have managed the economy so well that the dollar to the cedi, which was exchanged at 4.2, is now being exchanged at 4.8 something, getting to 4.9. Perfect management of the economy. That they have managed this country so well. The police officers and the security services who are supposed to be providing us with security themselves are crying for protection. That in January alone, 4 police officers were barbarously murdered. That you have armed robbery every single day. The occurrences of such acts clearly tells you that we are in a mess. So the interest of the NDC, regardless different opinions, is how we salvage this country. That Guta members, majority of whom supported the NPP, and as a matter of fact contributed 200,000 Ghana cedis to the MPP bid in the 2016 elections, are asking the MPP to return their 200,000 Ghana cedis to them. Because they are paying duties, import duties that they have never seen. That is the interest of all in NDC, regardless the differences we have. But look, I tell people that any political party, and those of us who are interested in political history across the globe, any political party anywhere, if you lose an election such as we lost in the 2016, those things are bound to happen. Those things are bound to happen. But I have observed that there is some level of stability at the base. The reason why we had a lot of these problems was because at the time when we were getting towards constituency elections, we virtually were leaderless. Because at that time, within the branches, anybody who was holding the branch executive position could not exercise his authority, could not be firm. Because if you had the intention of rerunning, you were worried. And you realize after we had the branch elections, had the constituency elections, there has been some level of stability. But who tells you that the political party is expected to be absolutely united? It doesn't even augur well for democracy. You must have different shares and opinions on certain positions. My only call is that we exercise that democratic right within the confines of rules and regulations governing the NDC as a political party and the Constitution of Ghana. So in terms of unity, and the fact that we have this and it's been tied to how disunited the NDC is in this country, we had a political party that sacked their chairman and their secretary that was in a complete disarray. But the people of this country gave them the mandate because they were lied to. They were deceived into thinking that that political party was having the magic wand. Today, I tell people, despite the challenges that the NDC faces, those challenges are challenges that inshallah will be solved with the elections that we are going to have. And when we come to that issue, we will look at it. But those challenges are challenges that are bound. They have got nothing to do with this recklessness and the biased demonstration of MPP activism by Jim Mensah and those who have been appointed. It has got nothing to do with that. And in fact, if the NDC had participated in the debate, I would have had problems with the NDC. We will participate in debates where the meetings are properly called. And if you listen to the National Secretary, his position was that we have been participating in these meetings. Meetings were never invited into such meetings in a manner that we were invited by this super incompetent NPP activist called Jean Mensa. We were never invited in that manner. And therefore, if we had participated in it, they would have done worse. They would have done worse. What was the rationale? Was it to cowed people, deceive them into coming for a meetings? Because if you have a political party, the political party has representatives who are going to take a decision on a critical matter, such as dividing and creating regions, that political party and their reps cannot go and take the decision without a collective decision taken by the NDC. So when you invite them to participate in a meeting like that, to discuss issues on the creation of new regions, they certainly would want to sit a whole house as national executive officers to discuss it. We have been invited to participate in a debate or in a discussion like this. Then they will take a collective position. General Mosquito, the national secretary, can't go to IPAD and take a decision without consulting his national executive officers. He can't do that. So if you invite me 45 minutes, you expect me to come and take a decision such as critical as this, and you think that they should have participated in it. So I think that we thumbs up for the General Secretary and the NDC for taking the kind of position that they have taken. But the NDC should remember that there is something we call superordinate problem. We're taught in the psychology class that when you have a challenge that individually you can't overcome, but collectively you can overcome that challenge, and that is why they call the superordinate problem. They should remember that the challenge we are facing is superordinate. The challenge we are facing is not about John Mahama. It's not about Dr. Spiogabra. It's not about Sly. It's not about Honorable Bagbin. It's not about my brother and friend Tubiga. It's not about all those who are contesting. It's about, and it's not even about the NDC. It is about the sanctity in governance. It is about the peace and stability of this country. It is about the survival of young people. It is about the destiny of this country and the destinies of young ones who have been subjected to a most reckless and haphazard implemented free education and now double track system that is untested anywhere, unpracticed anywhere, unplanned and uneven demonstrated anywhere, in which we were lied to that it was a system that was implemented in Kenya, a system that was implemented in Los Angeles in America, a system that was implemented in Japan, only for their friends in the media to interview those countries, and they said that is not the system we are implementing. And this statement was made by the Minister for Education. And then when they were caught pants down, the Deputy Minister comes on that same medium and say, yes, if we ask the people in Kenya, they will tell you that our system is different because we have what they call the hybrid system. The Kulkul school I attended in Tamale teaches me the difference between what calls a hybrid system and what calls a whole system. A hybrid simply means a combination of 2 or 3 more systems. Now, if you admit that it's a hybrid system, it means that you are implementing a new system. Why would you subject kids as guinea pigs in the laboratory over a system that you yourself you've indicated that you are just implementing it for 7 years? That is what is of interest. And the NDC activists across the country should remember that when MPP won the elections and they began sacking people from jobs, legitimate jobs, they were not asking who is pro John Mahama, who is pro Rawlings, who is pro Bagbin, who is pro Dr. Spiogabra. They were just sacking because they think that you belong to NDC. And in some instances, they were not even looking at NDC. They look at the shape of your head, the ethnic group you belong, the region you are coming from, and they come to such conclusions that you are not supposed to be there. You are considered as an NDC activist. That alone should let us understand that we may have differences in our position, in our ideological positions. We may have differences in who we think that must lead the NDC. But those differences should not tear us apart. And at any point in time, we should be reminded that the problem we are facing as a political party and as a country is superordinate. And therefore, we need collective responsibility to fight that canker.
Thank you very much, Comrade, for your submission. Brings us to 4 minutes after 10. Still here with us on your power station, Radio Gold 90.5 FM. Alhaji and Alhaji is the show you're listening to. It's live on our website, www.radiogold905.com. You can listen to us live as well. On the TuneIn application, search for Radio Gold 90.5. You can listen to us live as well. If you go to the Google Play Store and search for our application and install it on your phone, and you can monitor us anywhere in the world. The show is proudly brought to us by Apollonia City, and they're giving big, and it's almost too good to be true. Get rewarded with cars and loads of amazing home appliances when you buy a home or plot of land in the Apollonia Mega Dash promo. A 3-bedroom story at the Oxford gets you a brand new Suzuki Baleno from Silver Star Auto Limited. It would definitely be tier rubber. Last it says a brand new one. Any other home also gets you top-notch home appliances. But that's not all. You get loads of quality home appliances for simply buying a serviced plot in Apollonia City. There are no draws and no raffles. Exciting, isn't it? This promo is running from now to the end of September. Everyone wins in Apollonia City's Mega Dash promo. Visit www.apollonia.com.gh/megadash or call 0275 577 577 for more details. You can also send an email to sales@apollonia.com.gh. Terms and conditions apply. Do note. I'll go straight to Professor Nino Douna for his comments on our first issue. Prof, good morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you permit me to make a side issue, we always have to be grateful to our Maker for staying alive. We were here last week and we are here again, the same panel. Last Thursday, I was coming from Winneba in the morning and just approaching, going past Budumbura. I'm on the curve, on the narrow stretch because traffic from Kaswa to Budumbura had piled up. Here, all of a sudden, uphill appeared a Bank of Ghana truck, obviously catching money, with a lead truck that didn't have any dispatch rider. This was around 12 midday, and I had to just apply the brakes. And here were policemen, sadly and pathetically, coming out, charging at me. But for the timely caution of a taxi driver behind me, who have crashed into the vehicle with kids in the vehicle. And I had to just force myself to go back. And I just felt sorry for the policemen and even Bank of Ghana, because candidly, if it were an articulator or if it were a tipper truck, I think the money that they were cutting in haste, thinking it was more important than lives and the threats that they posed for the way they were dispatching the material, would have stayed there. And I only hope that they don't continue that way. Or if they do, then they risk killing themselves. And the way the policemen behave, for me, sadly, reminded us of the stereotype thinking of policemen, which we call a Jade Koti, the Buga Buga, master say attitude. And I think we've moved past that stage. So the governor and those who are responsible at Bank of Ghana for transporting money, and the IGP. Just recently, a policeman was shot, and we all consoled the family. If this is the way they still operate, and quite apart from they breaking traffic regulations, then I feel sorry for them. But we thank God that we are all alive. Eshan, let me read something I just found here. IPAC has no legal backing. It's a story by one in Ogdafa Frimpong, dated February 15, 2013. That was put on the net at 9:44 a.m. And if I read, a deputy chairman of the Electoral Commission, EC, Mr. Amadou Sule, has stated that the Inter-Party Advisory committee has no legal backing. He said the main function of IPAC was to deliberate, share ideas, and advise on electoral matters. According to him, the decisions of IPAC were not binding on the EC, but the commission took the IPAC's deliberations seriously, since they could be a collective search for a transparent electoral system. Mr. Sule said this during a 4-day meeting between Ugandan political parties with the representatives in parliament and their Ghanaian counterparts. The program, which was on the theme, the role of Ghanaian political parties in shaping and influencing national agenda, lessons from Ghana, was under the sponsorship of the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, and the Netherlands Institute of Multi-Party Democracy. And it goes on and goes on. But the key issue is that he said IPAC was made up of representatives of all registered political parties in the EC, and it was structured in such a way that there were regional Inter-Party Advisory Committees, RIPAC, and District Inter-Party Advisory Committees, DIPAC. I just leave the story this way. And this is coming from a former deputy chairperson who was an official of the EC, went off for some time, and he was appointed by President Mahama to be a deputy. And there's no doubt, in retrospect, that some of the issues that led to Charlotte Osei could have come from him and the other lady, and today they are all off the scene. And it's most unfortunate because those of us who were at IPAC at the inception, 94-5, and it came into real force in 96. And we know it's not part of the legal or constitutional structure of the the Electoral Commission, but our constitution also mandates that our constitutional democracy is that of multi-partyism. So political parties, without political parties, we don't have what we are running. And these other constitutional bodies that have been created, they've been created because parties exist. And who says that if we don't have a legal backing, we cannot be a force to reckon with? And it's unfortunate it came from somebody like Sule, but I said, let's say a dead matter and let's not visit it. But it was also a matter worthy of note that it took place at a forum organized by IEA. And if you translate it to what we are seeing, we only hope not, then there is cause for alarm. But you see, I participated in IPAC activities consistently from 95-6 all through to 2007 when I left office as General Secretary. And I took the opportunity to go through my archives. And I think Comrade Pukwesi Pratt was my Deputy General Secretary and a member of the Central Committee, that there wasn't any meeting that was not accompanied by a letter from the EC. No matter whether emergency, etc., phone calls will follow. There wasn't any meeting. And even to be fair, IEA itself, anytime they invited parties for workshops or seminars predating the political parties platform, always came with letter. The letter, I know, will be copiously or detailing. If it's a seminar, they will even give a background of the topic, etc. And so the matter we are discussing and the way other parties, some because their candidates were disqualified by Charlotte Osei, have all of a sudden found an unconscious ally in the current EC setup. Or even in removing Charlotte Osei, they unconsciously supported the agenda and had unconsciously also embraced the new order. So we only hope that the apology by Eric Japasu, the public relations officer, that it was an emergency meeting, circumstances were such that they could not help what happened and that they will not repeat it. Let's take note of that. But we found commentary elsewhere. Of course, we know the NDC, MPP, and this MPP didn't find anything wrong, and they heaped the blame on NDC that even if the letter did not come or they even had a letter 45 minutes, they should have attended. And that has been the saga. And so let us hope, for me, let us hope that this will not be repeated. And for Madam Jean Mensah, at the time that IPAC was in full session, the institute then, as chief administrator or the administrator of IEA, was also on the parallel program of the political parties program. And the political parties program at that time just involved the 4 parties that had representation in parliament: NDC, MPP, CPP, and then PNC. So it excluded the others. So IPAC remained and still remains the main forum that had brought about a lot of reforms. And let's take note that the matter we're talking about, it's not just about the letter that NDC did not receive early or receive early. If you look at the administrative structure, apart from the commission of 7 people, with 3 of them as officers, chairperson, deputy chairperson, administration, and finance, and deputy chairperson, operations, you have so many officers. You have coordinating directors, you have 17 directors, 7 at the headquarters, 1 per region. You have district officers, regional officers, and you even have a chief director. So it is a well-structured administrative system. And so something of this nature shouldn't have happened, but we are humans, and once they apologize, we only hope it will not happen. So I will just leave the commentary on that. The other dimension of the subject matter that is on the item 1 is a referendum for the creation of additional regions and associated matters. And I subscribe to the submission by His Excellency, Sam Piyale and Comrade Honorable Mutala. But you know my position already. And look, how many districts did we have in 1993? 138. Today we are over 275, isn't it? We formalized the existence of Greater Accra region as a constitutional wing of or segment of the country in 1982. And in 1982, we divided the then upper region into Upper East and Upper West. Comrade, yes. The road from Wa through Han to Tumu to Navrongo, what has it been since then? It's the state that should develop the road, isn't it? And until recently, the road from through Sola, Fufuso Road, was it not by state? Yeah. Don't we have districts straddling those areas? Yeah. And now, what are we doing? And that's why I ask the question, and I keep asking, Kwesi and others, you need to help me. Is it the constitution that is not correct in the Ghanaian parlance, or the practitioners? And so we have a constitution that says, we don't have a cap to the number of judges that we have in the Supreme Court. And the Constitution grants Parliament the authority to create constituencies or create districts. Or if you create districts, by the structure of the terms of the law, you have to create constituencies willy-nilly. How many, perhaps, it would be dependent on the number of districts that you create, because a constituency cannot straddle 2 districts. Either the constituency is synonymous with the district, but once you create a district and a wing of the constituency goes off, you have to separate it. So from 200 constituencies in 1992-96 elections, we went to 240, and then today we are 275, and we will be going more. This country that God created for us, and it's fixed. You understand? Then we are in an administration almost 2 years into a 4-year term, and that is all that you have. If you respect the will of the people, you only have 4 years. It is a wish that you have another 4 years. We have a full ministry for Zongo affairs or Zongo development. And those of us who were born in the Zongos and we walk through the Zongos, go through Medina today. It rained yesterday from the lorry station in front of Melcom, through the Medina market, through Erdipwe, come to Mainima. Go to Zongo. That is Accra. Our new incoming minister said he's now going to set up his office and everything. And the one who was there is now promoted or moved parallel to the, the office of the president. And then somebody who was office of the vice president. And then the one who was in charge of tankers is now moved to where? The Honorable Ada. Is moved to somewhere. We say musical chairs, but that's the prerogative of the president. But as we sit here, and Sean, I always talk, when I talk to you on the program, I say just walk behind Radio Gold's building. The road from here to, what do you call it, Montreal Junction. And you are creating more. So now, we say we want to create regions. Indeed, I was at sometime in May, His Excellency, Sampiaile. And what you're talking about, indeed, some say that it is better to go through Brekum or go through Brongahafo and come to Kumasi, to Accra, other than trying to drive through the motorable road to Takoradi. So then one will say, the colonial road path is there. Why don't you develop it? And when we are going to meetings at the regional office, it takes us a long time and it is better we have our region. Fine. And I'm saying we created a region 36 years ago. We created Upper East and Upper West 36 years ago. We made Greater Accra an official region. What has happened? Apart from everybody in Ghana, all Ghanaians in Accra, developing Accra, what has happened? And so you go to Ghana rural areas, and what do you see? And now, we've not left it there. We have 3, what is called regional development corporations. Coastal Development, Middle Belt, and then Northern. And they have officers who are already receiving pay. And so, for me, the processes have been followed. Referendum will take place. Maybe the decision will be that people in the region who want it, fine. If they don't want it, it will be a no vote. If they say they want it, then maybe sooner or later, after the referendum, we'll have 16 regions. Is that not it? And they will come with their bureaucracy, regional administration, and I believe some districts will be cut off, so you add more districts, and you're going to create this huge bureaucracy, regional House of Chiefs, and they all come from the consolidated fund, isn't it? Yeah, sure. And that's why we are buying 1 liter. Sean, you know 1 liter of fuel? When I always say, you laugh. Voting bottle, the bigger one, or sorry, any water bottle is 1.5 liters. You understand? So you pick 3, or you pick 2, you have 3 liters. And at the current price, it means that 1 liter of fuel, 1 liter, is more than $1. And this is the economy we are running. And so when you have a pickup, which is 3 liters, which is the most rational and sensible vehicle to have in moving from here to anywhere you live, even in Accra, they say it's a luxury vehicle. And you have to pay 1,000 cedis when you go and register. So you see, those who are governing, I don't know what, maybe those of you who have been there, Comrade Mutala, Sampi, when you move to the ministry and they go through orientation and you enter your minister's office, is it a spell? Then you forget about the reality that you and I were sleeping on the same floor, we were eating the same bowl. I take a meat, I cut some and leave some for you. You go and sit there, and all of a sudden, people forget that we are where we are. You see, we have a railway line being constructed. You know what is being constructed? Accra to Sawam. They are digging mud under the old colonial rail track and putting stone chippings. That is the railway line that is being constructed. So anybody in development finance or economic development agenda, the railway to Isawam and the railway to Tema, what is it for? Is it for passenger travel? So the colonial track, and meanwhile, there is somebody who has been Minister for Railway Development since January 2017. Are we serious? The answer is for the rest of us.
Thank you very much for... No, you blew me away with your submission. I mean, but anyway, we move on. I'll come to Mr. Pratt for his comment on our first topic for today.
Well, the matter we are discussing is a very, very important matter. It's a very important matter to the extent that the Electoral Commission is at the base of our attempt to build a democratic society. So if there are problems with the Electoral Commission, it would send a clear signal that our attempt to build a democratic society is being hampered. If you look at the 1992 Constitution, it clearly spells out the functions of the Electoral Commission. It says, for example, that the Electoral Commission's responsibility is to compile the register of voters and revise it at such periods as may be determined by law. The Electoral Commission is also to demarcate the electoral boundaries for both national and local government elections. The Electoral Commission conducts and supervises all public elections and referenda. It has responsibility to educate the people on the electoral process and its purpose. It is also to undertake programs for the expansion of the registration of voters and to perform such other functions as may be prescribed by law. These are very, very, very important functions. These are very, very, very deep assignments which have been assigned to the Commission. But you see, the Constitution also deliberately talks about the need for an independent Electoral Commission. And that simply would mean that we should not have a commission or commissioners who are beholden to forces, to groups, to individuals other than the Constitution of the Republic. Indeed, the Constitution states that except as provided in this Constitution or any other law not inconsistent with this Constitution, in the performance of its functions, the Electoral Commission shall not be subject to the direction, control of any person or authority. Over the last couple of months, we have had to discuss the Electoral Commission because there were indications, or some felt that there were indications, that the neutrality of the Commission could be compromised, and so on. Now, the first major move or major step taken by the Commission has been to call a meeting of IPAC. And look at what has happened. You know, for those who dwell on the independence of the Commission and so on, and say that, look, the Commission is not bound to be directed by anybody and so on, why then have IPAC? If IPAC is so irrelevant, has no meaning, has no relevance and so on, why have it? If you convene IPAC meetings, it costs money. It costs time. You spend resources on these meetings. So if that meeting is so irrelevant, so unnecessary, and the Commission can do as it pleases and so on, why have IPAC meetings?
Why have it at all?
You understand?
All these years.
So I think we should put that argument to the side. I mean, it's one of the most frivolous arguments made by flippant elements, you know, who are engaged in an exercise of verbal diarrhea, you know, and so on. We should put that argument to the side. You know, IPAC was set up, as Comrade Nino Dowona has indicated, in the 1990s, because there were problems with administering elections, because the Electoral Commission was not getting the full cooperation of stakeholders, because of suspicions about the conduct of the Commission and so on. So it was believed that if all stakeholders were brought together around one table, some of these difficulties, misunderstandings and so on could be smoothed out to enable the Commission to function, you know, with some measure of confidence from the stakeholders. That is why it was set up. Indeed, IPAC has worked to the admiration not just of Ghanaian stakeholders, but also some international organizations and institutions have said that this is an innovation worth copying in other countries and so on. Now, the establishment of IPAD has led to substantial reform in our election processes. Many substantial reforms. Indeed, through IPAD, we have managed to sanitize the printing of ballot papers, the distribution of ballot papers, with the involvement of the political parties and observers. Through IPAD, difficulties about, the compilation of voters' register and so on have been discussed dispassionately and honestly. And we have managed to hold how many elections since 1992? It's a pity that this very first step of the Electoral Commission is riddled with controversy and appears to indicate that the level of competence of the Commission at least is suspect. Now, one of the major flaws, we are told that the invitations went late. Indeed, from what I'm hearing, some of the parties got their invitation less than 24 hours before the meeting. Now, we are told that it was an emergency. What emergency? What emergency which could not wait for 24 hours? What emergency which could not wait for 48 hours? What is the nature of that emergency? If the meeting was not convened at that time, was somebody going to die? If the meeting was not convened at that time, was the Electoral Commission building going to collapse? If the election was not held at that time, would the commissioners have suffered stroke? What is the emergency? The emergency ought to be described. We ought to know what the emergency was. And I've listened to all the conversations, and I'm inclined to believe that there was no emergency requiring the convening of a meeting with less than 24-hour notice. Now, if meetings are to be meaningful, and indeed all meetings, not just this meeting, are to be meaningful, the participants in the meeting ought to know the subject matters which will be discussed so that they can prepare before the meetings. If people are surprised at meetings, they cannot make meaningful contributions to the issues which have been tabled for discussion. And I'm just wondering just how you could invite political parties to a meeting which is supposed to discuss emergency matters without their knowing what the meeting was about. As it turns out, this meeting, it appears, was convened to discuss matters like the creation of new regions and so on. Why was this not disclosed to the political parties? What was the reason? Why was this not disclosed to political parties? I do not think that there's any justifiable excuse, for what has happened. There cannot be any justifiable excuse. But what is worse? I'm told that this meeting was convened when the chairperson of the commission herself was not available to attend the meeting. What was she doing abroad? Nobody has told us what Madame Jane Mensah was doing outside this country. What was she doing abroad? Which was so very important that she could not be available for a meeting of the political parties. The very first meeting, she was outside this country. Doing what? Tourism? Seminar? Seminar on what? Or maybe another emergency abroad. Look, public officials, especially of important public institutions like the Electoral Commission, should take the people of Ghana seriously at least for once. You understand? Yes, if this meeting was so crucial, it was about an emergency and so on, how come that the chairperson of the commission was not available? Because I don't see where in the world today with improvements in air travel and so on, the commissioner could not travel within 36 or 48 hours to arrive in Ghana to attend a meeting. Unless she was carrying out a surgical operation on a patient who had a 70-30 chance of survival somewhere. What could she be doing outside, which was so very important that she couldn't be available for an IPAC meeting? This is really incredible. But you see, my brothers, the seriousness of the matter can be found also in the 1992 Constitution. The 1992 Constitution is very clear that to be able to divide regions, to create new regions and so on, you need 2/3 majority of the people participating in the referenda. You understand? Under these circumstances, if we do not achieve consensus of all the political parties and so on, this referendum will be a total failure. Because I cannot see how, under any circumstances, one political party can canvass for votes in this referendum and succeed. You need 2/3 majority. 2/3 majority. Already, there are several issues which are flying around, some of which I do not want to repeat and so on. But there are many issues flying around. For example, there has been this question of why divide some regions and leave other regions intact. What is the purpose of the creation of new regions and so on? That issue has not been properly answered. Because if it is by population, then some regions qualify to be divided more than others, and yet those regions are intact. You understand? If it's by land size, then some regions qualify more than others, and so on. So all of these things are hanging in the air. We have not as yet achieved general consensus on the measure. And then the Electoral Commission takes the first step, and it is tottering. It is falling all over the place and so on. I think this is an important matter which needs to be looked at, very seriously. Look, one of the reasons why Madame Charlotte Osei was thrown out of office or pushed out of office was the fact that it appeared that there was not enough cohesion at the center of the commission. You understand? It appeared that things had been done without adequate consultations and so on. What we are seeing and hearing about the functioning of the Electoral Commission a few months after the appointment of Madame Jean Mensah must be worrying for everybody. You understand? It must be exceedingly worrying for everybody who is watching the Electoral Commission. I do hope that the Commission will learn from its tottering errors. It will learn from its tottering errors and begin to take a serious look at itself with a view to avoiding reoccurrences in the future. If for nothing at all, this blundering in the effort to convene its first meeting led to the refusal of the National Democratic Congress to attend that meeting. And that's a big blow. Yeah. I mean, things being what they are now, things may change in the future. It is possible that in the future, the New Patriotic Party and the National Democratic Congress would not be the dominant parties. It's even possible that 1 year to the election, a new political party can emerge, which can overshadow the two parties and so on, as has happened in other countries and so on. These are all possibilities. But as we sit in the studio today, the two major players in our politics today are the National Democratic Congress and the New Patriotic Party. Let nobody imagine that any of these parties can be ignored, in processes of elections and so on. Nobody can be ignored, none of them. Even the so-called smaller parties, which may not remain small forever, are important stakeholders And I think it's important to show them some respect and to make the effort to bring them on board to ensure that when it comes to elections, the conduct of elections and the conduct of referenda and so on, we are all on the same page. Yes, we would disagree, and Comrade Mutala made a very brilliant point, about differences not necessarily meaning disunity. And I think that's an excellent point that he made. Look, what is multi-party democracy? The essence of multi-party democracy, the gravamen of multi-party democracy is difference. Without difference, we would have a one-party state. It is because we have differences and we cherish those differences. It's because we have different ways of doing things and different ways of thinking and so on that we have crafted a multi-party democratic dispensation which enables people to congregate around ideas, around their differences and so on. So you cannot eliminate difference and still have a multi-party democratic dispensation. The fact that we have MPP and NDC is no indication that this country is divided. You understand? Is no indication. The fact that in a political party like the CPP, you are likely to have a context for presidential candidature which may involve 2, 3, 4 or more, maybe Ivor Greenstreet versus Professor Dele and so on, does not mean that the party is divided. You understand? It doesn't mean that the party is divided. So how people come to the conclusion that we are divided simply because we have differences is strange to me. And that's why I really like the comments which were made by Comrade Mutala. Clearly, difference does not mean disunity and cannot mean disunity. I'd like to leave my comments at this stage and hope that the Electoral Commission will rise up to the occasion and do things which would engender public confidence in it. You understand? The sloppy beginning is worrying. Of course, the Public Relations Office of the Commission has apologized, and I think it's a good thing, but apologies do not always remedy what has already been done. It may suit our hearts, it may make us feel that, the organization is being sensitive and so on, but the indication that something is not adding up, the indication that the level of efficiency and so on at the commission is questionable and so on, is left hanging over all of us. And I do hope that Madam Jean Mensah would recognize that she came into office in the midst of controversy. And indeed, that her appointment is still being contested even in the court. And that she has a duty to herself, to the commission she leads, and to the country Ghana to begin to show signs of efficiency. I'm disappointed in the way they conducted themselves with regards to this first meeting of IPAC.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. This brings us to 18 minutes to the top of the hour, 11. Different comments have come through. Let me share a few of them before we move to our next topic. And that topic would be critical analysis of former President John Dramani Mahama's declaration to contest the flag bearership position of the NDC and issues arising. Now, let me move on and share the comments so far that I have received on Twitter and then on Facebook. This one from D'Souza Wogbeji says, okay, let me get that message. It says, wow, we should pray for people like Professor Dowuna to be at the helm of affairs, not thrash talkers of politicians. By the way, what could be more urgent for the EC chair to abstain herself from her 45 minutes text notice emergency meeting? Regards to my senior comrades, he sent that Habib in Sawam sends the message. It's a shame where Ghana has reached today. Everything is Basa and Nana Akufo-Addo. The illegality perpetrated by His Excellency To remove Charlotte to say is as evil as overthrowing a legitimate president. The new chairperson of the EC must know she will go soon. Daniel Atia says, he says, good morning, Ishan. I sincerely believe the other contenders are just there to add to the numbers. A landslide victory awaits JDM. Henry Ni Taki sends the message. Sammy, good morning. And hello to your panelists who have joined you. I must say they have made my morning so far. Beautiful discussion on the issue. Let me take the opportunity to welcome my incoming national chairperson of the NDC, Mr. Danny Annan. He will win hands down. This one says JM. Okay, Kofi J says JM is the man of the moment for the NDC. Let me go to Facebook and check a few comments as well there, and then read them or share them with listeners. Okay, so this one from Bright Matthias Dachomo says, good morning, Sammy. Having listened to reports and evidences available on the emergency IPAC meeting organized but dodged by the EC chair, I have an iota of conviction that the EC chair may not unify the political landscape. What would be more important than her first meeting with political parties after her resumption to that office? The Volta region alone should not be touched for any political reasons by the well-orchestrated reasons by His Excellency. Voltarians should stand against this division, and this is not politics, but insight. King Farouk says, thank you, JM, for accepting the call of the masses. The man in whose care you left us has failed. He is a driver, Banza, super incompetent, Bajistiano, and drive us to our destination safely. Ghana is bleeding. The masses are willing. 2020 will be our year of liberation. King Farouk sent that one through. Eresi Aban sends the message. I mean, it's always refreshing to hear your voice on the Power Drive and also on Alhaji and Alhaji. President John Dramani Mahama made my day when he declared his intention to be a part of the flag bearership race. Kindly find out from him, when is he picking the form? Thank you for that message you sent through this morning. So those are a few comments this morning I've received that I can share with you on the show this morning. I've already indicated that the show is proudly brought to us by Apollonia City, Ines Fly, and also TT Brothers. TT Brothers, they are the proud distributors of J2O orange and passion fruit juice. It's a well-blended juice drink, very tasty for occasions, especially on a Saturday like this one. You'll be going for your weddings, for your funerals, and the rest of them. They also are the sole distributors for the Tango juice. They've got the apple, they've got the orange, and they've got different flavors for occasions that you will be having in the days ahead of us. So make sure you contact Uncle T for TT Brothers for the Uncle T Premium Malt as well. That has got lots and lots of nutrients and vitamins in there as well. They are the power sponsors of the show this morning. We move on to our next issue, which has to do with the declaration of intent by His Excellency the former President John Dramani Mahama. Let me check the time. It's almost 11, and so we may have to restrict ourselves to 15 minutes each or 10 minutes each, so we can deal with the issue. I'll start with you, Comrade Murtala Ibrahim Mohammed, on the matter of the letter of intent sent to the party head office by the former president.
Well, I think that just like you did, the other aspirants so far have also done that. It wasn't surprising to some of us. I had the privileged opportunity to have participated in meetings in which discussion of same had taken place. And Sean, I have been very consistent in my position as to who leads the NDC in the 2020 election. I have tried my possible best not to get involved in who you can attack the best, because I realize that that has unfortunately been the phenomenon if you go through the social media. But I haven't been hypocritical about that. I have stated consistently that the best candidate the NDC has is former President Mahama. And I have no apologies whatsoever for that. Former President Mahama is not a saint. Former President Mahama is also a human being. And he also has some frailties which he himself has admitted time and again. We went into elections in 2016 and lost the elections. We lost the elections and the problems started. I was never worried about the issues that were raised unabatedly within the NDC as to the reasons why we lost the elections. I was never worried at all about that. I wasn't worried because throughout my reading of democratic elections, at least in recent times, I came to one conclusion, that any time a political party loses elections, you are bound to have some of this blame game. As a matter of fact, when the Labour Party lost the elections to the Conservative, there were a lot of blame games. When Cameron became the leader, and subsequently the Labour Party lost. Within the Labour Party, there were a lot of movement, there were a lot of concern, there were a lot of blames that actually happened. Even Jeremy Corbyn, who is now the leader of the Labour Party, who I have so much admiration for, a lot of mud recently has been thrown at him without any basis. I was watching a video of Finkelstein, who was interviewed by Galloway on the issue of Jeremy Corbyn, and he said that what is happening to Corbyn today, he thinks would happen to the Sanders in United States of America should he contest and be elected as the flag bearer of the Democratic Party in the U.S. Within the U.S., when the Clinton lost the elections, there were a lot of issues within, and those issues are still going on. So for me, it wasn't strange to me that some of those things would happen. Let's call a spade and not a big spoon. That an average NDC person who is so minded of what NDC does can give you more than 3-4 reasons why we lost the elections. And those reasons, everybody is at a blame, including former President Mahama. I remember when former President Mahama had the encounter with former ministers, he indicated that he took the responsibility, and as the captain of the ship, he has taken the responsibility of our defeat. I was thinking that the moment he made that statement, all would have indeed mellowed down, and the vilification and attacks on him would have also subsided. Unfortunately, it exacerbated the issues that were raised. One thing I have observed about the NDC is that we most often allow MPP to set the agenda for us. MPP set the agenda. MPP have a crafty way of tagging anybody within NDC. And the moment we do that, we are so gullible that we take advantage of it. And you see, the difference between the NDC and the MPP is that if you call an NDC person, an MPP person, and says that the knives are out for you, the MPP person will ask, whose knives? That is how the MPP behaves. If a journalist takes a phone and calls an MPP person and says, the knives are out for you, the MPP person will ask, whose knives? Now, he must know whose knives before he will begin to defend himself or attack. But the moment a journalist picks a phone and calls an NDC person and says, the knives are out for you, he will start attacking without even asking. That is the difference. The NPP, regardless their differences, regardless the deep-seated hatred they have for each other, and we've seen that. We know the kinds of text messages people send to us within them. We know the kinds of messages they send to us. We know. But when they send those messages to their own people, they won't. Let a single message is sent to an NDC and see what happened. You have President Mahama who went into an elections, won the elections, and we all boasted, including those who are now attacking him today, that he campaigned for 3 months and won an elections. I learned something in tech at the planning class, there's something we call problem tree. Is you look at negatives, problems, and you know what planners do? They turn the problem tree to be an objective tree. The same negatives can be turned to be positives. If we had won the 2016 elections, President Mahama would have been praised on top of the roof. But because we lost the elections, President Mahama should be blamed for everything that happened. I'm not saying that President Mahama himself also didn't do certain things that were considered to be wrong. He did. If you ask him and he wants to be sincere with you, he'll tell you that, look, perhaps I could have done this thing ABCD. Even those of us who were members of parliament, you lose an election, you sit down and you reflect upon the elections, and then you come to the conclusion that perhaps I could have done things differently. That is the mark of humility. Now, if all these attacks were on him, and the man said, look, I was the captain of the ship. I have taken all the blame. Don't blame anybody, blame me. I thought it would have been enough. One thing I would say, Sean, is to remind the NDC fraternity once again that when MPP is dealing with NDC, they are not dealing with us as individuals. They deal with us as a political party. Today, if some people are given the opportunity to attack people, they attack people left, right, and center. Tomorrow, they will use those same attacks to attack NDC. They won't say that someone attacked blind people or stammerers. They won't say that. They will say that NDC is the only political party in which blind people are attacked, in which stammerers are attacked. That is what they will say. But today, once it pleases them, they will defend such recklessness. But tomorrow, they will not look at it as an individual statement that was made. They will look at it as a statement that was made by an NDC person, and by extension, NDC as a political party. And for me, that is where we need to be extremely careful. All those so far who have declared their intention to contest have stepped in one way or the other under President Mahama's administration. President Mahama doesn't own NDC. President Mahama is part of NDC. President Mahama happened to be a flag bearer chosen by the NDC family. That we think that at this material moment, you need to lead our party. Just as Prof. Mills was chosen, just as former President Rawlings was chosen, so would another person be chosen after President Mahama ends his tenure. That is how politics is. Sean, there can't be any political party that goes into an election, won the elections, and everybody will be given appointment in that political party. No. And those of you who are given appointment, don't assume that you are the best brains. You are the best of all the NDC family, and you were appointed because you have special qualities. Don't assume that. And if you are also not appointed, don't assume that you are hated. And because they hated you, that is the reason why they didn't appoint you. Appointment to positions and leadership is Allah's favor. And Allah determines at any point in time who he bestows that favor upon. Now, when we had NDC, and I would want to limit it in the 1992, constitution, since 92 till date. The NDC started democratically. Our first leader was former President Rawlings. Former President Rawlings couldn't have appointed everybody in NDC as minister and deputy ministers. He had to appoint some people, and some people were not appointed. Of course, those who were appointed were happy that they were asked to come and serve. Those who were not appointed, some may be bitter because they will feel that they think that they were deserving of appointment and that they ought to have been appointed, and they were not appointed. How did they act when they were not appointed and others were appointed? How did they act? That is one. One former President Rawlings left, and we have former President Mills. There were a lot of people who were appointed. Some were not appointed. Those who were appointed certainly maybe would have been happy. Those who were not appointed, of course, some of them would have been bitter. How did they act? Now let's juxtapose the actions or reactions of those who were not appointed by the two NDC leaders with those who were not appointed under President Mahama, and you would come to one conclusion that people have been unfair to the man. That is a fact. They have been unfair to the man. So what I would say is that, yes, people may have issues. What we need now as NDC is to be reminded of what I indicated earlier, that we are facing a superordinate problem. Of course, all of us would have learned our mistakes, and there is nothing wrong with you telling somebody that, yes, I did something wrong. I think that we should let bygones be bygones. I couldn't have given a perfect rulership as a leader. I couldn't have given a perfect rulership as a minister. I couldn't have given a perfect rulership as a constituency chairman or constituency secretary or national chairman or national secretary. That is why life itself is a learning curve. That because I couldn't do ABCD, under the circumstances, we are all facing a challenge. And the challenge transcends even the NDC. The challenge is, how do we salvage this country? And by so doing, we put behind us. The Gombes have a saying, they say, "Nesobo papia," which simply means that no one is up to 10. Every human being, you would certainly be short of 10. So what it means is that we all have limitations. Whatever limitations you have, just acknowledge that. Sean, if I sit today and they ask me to write your negatives, Sean, I can write a lot of negatives about you. Now, if it is your turn to also write negatives about me, perhaps you will write more negatives about me. That is how life is. Every human being apart from God, you're bound to have negatives and positives. What I would urge the NDC family is that let's look beyond the negatives and focus on the positives. How do we galvanize those positives and do what planners do, turn the problem tree to an objective tree and prosecuting the 2020 election? That is the only way by which we can save this country from the mess that in which we are. So until we do that, we are bound to have those differences. I'm not saying that differences should not emanate. One thing I know for sure, that all those who have indeed declared their intention to contest are a million miles better than President Nana Addo and Dr. Bawumia. I have no doubt in mind, all those who have declared their intentions within the NDC to contest will manage this country better and safer than President Nana Addo and Dr. Bawumia are managing this country. As a matter of fact, the NDC is collective and political parties are. You manage a country as a leader based on the ideological position and the aspirations of the political party for which you are a leader. And that is where the difference between the NDC is palpable. That there are inselbecks on the way of every leader at any point in time, except those who, upon getting the leadership, tend to be absolute dictators. What I will urge, particularly we, the young ones within the NDC, and those old ones who indeed express some concerns. Some of the concerns, some of the elders expressed were genuine. To be very honest, perhaps we didn't also conduct ourselves so well. What we need to do is to begin to realize that we might have conducted ourselves in a way that was not in sync with you. But the elderly, some of them too, perhaps didn't conduct themselves so well in terms of their reactions to what they perceived to be the conduct of the young ones. And I believe that if we had all done this, I think that we would have had a solution to some of these challenges. What we need now is to put behind us the differences. What we need now is to see how we can work together and win the elections. President Mahama would be a leader. He would come and go. Another leader at any point in time will come and go, but the NDC remains. So anytime we have a leader, it is not just about that person. Let's be reminded of our collective responsibilities and duties as a political party. The NDC remains. The NDC that would ensure the stability and unity of this country. The NDC that will ensure the social and ethnic cohesion in this country. The NDC that will ensure the peace of this country. The NDC that will be interested in providing bread and butter. The NDC that will be interested in not putting fuel prices at a level that can never be managed by anybody. That is the kind of NDC and that is the kind of government we want. The people of this country, as Uncle Kwesi said earlier, that the major political parties today are the NDC and the NPP. The only possible or foreseeable alternative to the mess, the crass incompetence and corruption in this country is the NDC. So if we ourselves are not being seen to be very united, I think that would have a problem. So that is why we need, at any point in time, be reminded that the people of this country indeed have a lot of hope and confidence in us. Because the 53% of our compatriots who were lied to, who were deceived, the young unemployed people who were deceived, now the jobs haven't been created, the opportunities haven't been created, corruption has been perfected under this government, disunity has been perfected, and the very people who claimed that they knew what corruption was admitted when they appeared before committees that they were lying to the people of this country, and that this government is uninterested in fighting corruption.
Right.
That is what the interest of the people of this country is. So let's demonstrate that we are more than prepared to salvage this country, and I believe with that we would win the 2020 elections, inshallah, with a very wide margin.
Thank you very much, Comrade, for your submission. I'll come straight to Ambassador Sampiale for your comments.
Well, only a few days ago, I was in the party headquarters on a delegation led by Ambassador, the former regional minister of Ashanti, Ohine Jokum, led a delegation to present the letter of intention to the party. And in that letter, there was expression of intent by the former president to contest. And since that time, there have been a lot of discussions about whether it was a right decision for him to contest or not a right decision for him to not to contest. But Eshan, if you will recall, when the NDC lost elections, everybody was giving different reasons why we lost the elections. And there was a high sense of disappointment in most of our members. I'm sure when the NDC set up the Professor Kwesi Butwe committee and they went round, they may have identified many other problems apart from the leadership of President Mahama, which was the cause of our defeat. Put it all together, President Mahama openly accepted that he would take personal responsibility for the loss. And that, for me, was so soothing that whatever disappointment people had, like Comrade Mutala said, would have been assuaged. Now, we were all NDC people who are truthful will admit that they were even afraid to come out in those times to say that we are NDC people. Anytime you met a colleague that you knew, oh, would you have not done party? Or for me these days, I'm not part of any political party. That was happening. That despondency was rising until Comrade Akamba, Joshua Akamba, and Kujobonsu came out with this unity work concept. And Eshan, anybody can say anything. But for me, the unity work concept represented the best thing that happened in reawakening the love of the NDC among our grassroots. Take it or leave it. Because if you watch footages of the unity work, people enthusiastically came out. This one, there was no bassin, there was nothing. People just enthusiastically came out to pour out in support of the NDC. And I am not too sure whether in the unity work, some people were not invited or some people were specifically invited. At that time, let's be chronological, at that time, the NDC had not opened nomination for people to come and buy nomination form to declare their intention. I think I'm right. No, NDC had not done that. NDC did that just a few weeks ago. The NDC had brought up a program of branch reorganization and reconciliation at the time that way. But as we were engaged in branch reorganization, some people had taken the liberty to say that I want to be a flag bearer over a party that was not strong at the grassroots. Instead of helping us to go and organize at the grassroots, they were interested in declaring themselves as flag bearers. So this group of people started generating issues of their own, that we were not invited to the unity walk. Masa, ya kanantu sa obimba France na kanantuwa. You see, and this unity work for me was very, very important. And people didn't take part. And now, people like Ben Epson have taken the unity work as an issue of disunity in the party. At all. I vehemently disagree with that concept. Now again, people made several allegations as to why we lost the elections, and have forgotten that majority of the reasons why we lost elections were the perceptions of corruption that all of us knew were not right, but we failed to defend as a political party. All of us knew that the allegations that were being made against Mahama were not right. Because it was we who were the ministers, it was we who were the appointees of government who knew the facts. It's not following what I'm saying. If somebody is telling me that some people you are incompetent, you are a thief, then I will ask myself, my mission, head of chancery, so this allegation against me, what is it about? But in our time, when even ministers were being attacked, President Mahama was being attacked, of issues that concerned our ministries, we kept quiet. Were we keeping quiet so that we would run after his position? Is that the case? Were we keeping quiet so that we can run against him? All the people who are contesting, like Comrade Mutala said, are far qualified to be that. But I have personal pain that in spite of the fact that you were part of the train, you were in the ship with a captain, you did not logo the anchor and we sank. You did not paddle the boat and we couldn't go over the storm. Then you turn out to blame only one person. That's where my problem is. Because that's where my problem is. That in spite of the fact that we should have all accepted collective responsibility, we have allowed Ghanaians to paint a picture of abysmal corruption on President Mahama. Every day you open the news, they are insulting him. But President Mahama did not appoint his family members. The only person he appointed was Mrs. Joyce Power. And everybody knows how competent that lady is. His only brother, which earned him family and friends government, was Ibrahim Mahama. And which Ibrahim Mahama constructed or repaired the motorway free of charge at his own cost. And dredged the Kole Lagoon at his own cost. Yet, we have allowed ourselves for the man to be pinned and so disgraced. President Mahama remains the most abused president in Ghana. President Mr. Dona, Nino Dona, Prof, hearts of folks are going to play Olympics. Must hearts of folk select the coach of Olympics? Must hearts of folk select the goalkeeper of Olympics? We NDC think that we want to lose a game, isn't it? So we have brought President Mahama. What is your problem? You should be happy. Today I've learned that the Alliance for Change, or whatever they call themselves, say they are going to take President Mahama to court to strip him of his presidential former, all the allowances he's taking as a president. What kind of absurdity is that? Hasn't he been a president before?
He's still not even given a home.
Is the constitution against him running? And the NDC people who are saying that President Mahama should not run again. President Kufuor lost an election, didn't he? Edugwahin lost an election. Kufuor lost an election. Even Akufo-Addo himself lost more than one election. And he still came to win. So that argument for me, I don't see it. I don't see it. So Mr. Benefin and the rest of them, today, Uncle Ben, I seriously disagree with you. The fact that people didn't take part in the unity work does not mean that there's disunity in the NDC. The fact that Babin want to contest NDC, President Mahama, does it show that there's disunity? All those who are contesting President Mahama, have they written to you that there's disunity in the NDC? Or what evidence do you have to show that there's disunity in the party? I want to advise all those who bring dead skeletons when NDC is making progress to say that there's disunity, please stop it. We want NDC to be stable because we believe in a philosophy that Ghana as instate should not be governed by property owning democracy. That's not a country that is so impoverished. It's a country that should not collect taxes from poor people to pay the school fees of rich people. That's what we believe in. And now go and buy next Fry. The schools are going. You know, you have established a JSS senior high school system that the children come home with bed bags. See, you know, bed bags as a syndrome got out of this country years ago. Now, when the children go to school, they bring bed bags. We should be worried about that. So, I want to put on record here and today and now that all those who are merchandise of NDC disunity, please stop. Nobody is going to buy your empty propaganda again. Nobody is going to buy your empty propaganda again. The NDC at the grassroots is so strong, the constituency elections have been held, regional elections are going to be held. We know of those who are agents of the MPP. We know of them, and we will at the right time talk to in their faces. But the point is that John Mahama has declared the intention. He is not disqualified so to do, is he? He's not disqualified. He's going to put up a campaign. And I know John Mahama will not engage in any campaign that would insult, excuse my language, our disabled brothers and sisters. How on earth do you want to be a president of this country and you look into the face of a colleague and tell him that because he's a stammerer? How on earth do you do that? And Comrade Mudara, that was not an NDC statement. You understand? And we will not associate ourselves with that statement. It was Adman Barbin's statement that Mahama should not be voted for because he appointed a stammerer. It is not an NDC statement.
No, I'm saying that the MPP would take it.
Let them take it, but we disassociate ourselves with it. It was not NDC statement. You understand? Once you start talking like that, then they will put it as a campaign strategy. It is not. It is Adman Barbin's campaign strategy. And all NDC people who should know that such a leader will not be a good leader for NDC. Sure. Because he would carry this baggage and then infest us like bed bags with it. Asian, President Mahama's record as a president. I am unrepentant Nkrumahist without any apologies. I know that Nkrumah developed this country because the evidence is everywhere. Everything we are using in this country was started by Nkrumah. Sure. Everything. But if you take Dosajifu aside, and perhaps Achampon, those who don't know and who don't see what Achampon did, some of us, we know. Mahama will remain the only president who developed this country faster, more than any of the other the president we have had after Nkrumah. If you look in the health sector, if you look at the education sector, everywhere, even the railways that they are bragging about, in Sawom to Prof, in Sawom to Accra, he did Kojokrom to Takrady. He did it, and now they have taken the trucks. Nobody knows where the trains are. The shipyards, the whatever, call it, the hospitals, call it. Mahama is the one who created this country, developed this country faster than all the presidents we have had apart from Kwame Nkrumah. If you have such a leader and he's alive, why wouldn't we gravitate towards him and make him continue the things that will look into the eye of the poor man and develop him? Why should we vote for a government that is saying that all property should belong to us? Why would you follow that? Mahama, with all his phrase, never promoted chieftaincy, one chieftaincy against other. He never did that. We are seeing all this and we are clapping and happy. Mahama never brought his brothers and sisters in the Ministry of Finance. Mutara, go and see the Ministry of Finance now. Go and see all the directors are from Data Bank. And we are complacent and happy clapping. See, This country, there are men in it too. This country, there are men in it. But the fact that we have kept quiet does not mean that we are stupid. We are not. And at the right time, the right things will be said. It doesn't matter how much they want to change the history of this country. They will try, but they cannot change the history of this country. That Mahama was in court for almost 1 year, took the rest of his time, in spite of all the challenges he had, to develop this country as fast as he could.
All right.
Now, see, my friend, Mr. Shen, today I read Professor Amyo Ekunfi is acknowledging the importance of the Mahama terminal today in the graphic. And he has forgotten that when they started, Mahama started, all manner of insults were hailed at him. So the record is there. We shall use it. But I'm appealing to all those former Mahama appointees who are contesting Mahama to know that they are writing their own CVs. You understand what I'm saying? Whatever you say today, it will be there waiting for you. I know that some of them are just testing the waters against the next election. And therefore, they don't go the other way. But for octogenarians like us who are in the group, they think that's our last chance. And we should say all manner of things. But please, 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 some of you suffered for insulting President Mills. So those who have taken to that line, continue. Kwesi Platt will say that when we go to Sunyani, people will see their smoothness level. We are reaching there. We are reaching there, and people will see their. Oh, this one is no Sunyani. Where are you going now? Wherever we are going, people will see their smoothness level.
Thank you, sir. That brings us to 20 minutes, to the 20 minutes after 11, sorry. And you're welcome to the program Alhaji and Alhaji. We started at 9 and we have 40 more minutes before we leave here to go and throw our weight behind the former chief of staff as he buries the mother today. Professor Nino Dona. Yes, Julius Debra.
Okay. Yeah. Then our condolences then. So. Thank you very much. Consistent with my position on matters related to the internal politics of parties, I wouldn't like to make sensitive statements. But, well, looking at the stature of the NDC, anything that goes on obviously will have impact on the political landscape. To begin with, let me say emphatically that there's nothing that bars President Mahama from contesting as for the flag bearer's position in the party, and by extension, the next election in 2020. When he qualified as a candidate for the 2016 elections, we said, look, we will not know until after the elections what the trend, whether the trend set up from 2001 when we had a new party in government, and then 2009 when we had another party in government, whether it is a two-term, one party goes after a two-term, or then after another two-term, another party goes, another party comes, whether that cycle has become an entrenched trend, and the power of decision laid with the voters. And it will also be phenomenal if we had President Mahama getting re-elected. Then maybe the impression that it is a party two-term affair or a party two-term cycle would then tend to be not true, but rather the individual. It so turned out to be that from what we saw, and notwithstanding the systemic inactions or challenges that the NDC face, or whether NDC itself gave power to President Akufo-Addo, it was a two-term party affair. And indeed, if President Mahama had won, then it would have been a three-term for the NDC. And from what we see, it means that the other way, the trend we have to contend with is a 2-term cycle, because it's so far, as we say, is the NDC and MPP, which have been the dominant parties since 1992, when we began our attempt at constitutional rule for the Fourth Republic. President Mahama made a point after seeing, visiting former President Rawlings, and he said he would not like to trade in insults. And I believe that set the tone. It was like telling everybody, let's be fair and let's be sensitive in the way we conduct our campaign. And I also read a report where I think he distanced himself from some ethnocentric comments by some NDC members a couple of weeks ago. So I would say kudos in that regard. I have always said and then told people on the quiet that it is my hope that all those contesting, some we say are appointees of President Mahama during when he was president, should note that the president's seat or the position is not like a traditional stool or a skin. So it gets to this ruling house and they can tear themselves into pieces. Then the elders come to the kingmakers and say, this is the one we are presenting, and make him the chief or make him the king. It is not as such. And so when we are making pronouncements and we're trying to undercut each other, we should take note that 2020, President Akufo-Addo qualifies for a second term. And if the cycle that we have noted is what we have to go by, then it will be a formidable contest. Now, if it so happens that it's going to be another one term and it was due to the, put in quotes, pardon my word, the incompetence that was demonstrated, sorry, that was highlighted by the opponents, then he stands a chance. And we have only had 7 elections, 92, 6, 2004, 8, 12, and then 16, 7 elections. And perhaps it's too early to start predicting a trend. But at least we've had some trend established because we've had a changeover after 2 terms, a changeover after 2 terms. What we've not had was a president who died in office. Because indeed, President Mahama's second term, first term, as we call it, if Mills had been alive, that would have been his second term. And then President Mahama would have then qualified to contest the 2016 elections, as Nana had the opportunity during when President Kufuor finished his second term. So these are all general issues that we have to contend with. Well, as to who will win, I don't know. It's an internal matter. Some are saying appointees are contesting. And of course, I found it unfortunate when a statement attributed to an elder, I wouldn't like to mention the name, that people shouldn't vote for Mahama if he, at that time, he had not declared and that he was incompetent. I hope that statement was not correct. The elder of the party did not state that. But others are hinging on that he was incompetent, he wasn't this. But some of us who followed the trend, we were surprised at the turn of events. Some of the results we were not, because we knew of some systemic challenges and problems. Let's call it problems. Present day development experts will say, don't say problems, but they're problems. And key leading functionaries knew. They knew the problems. You understand? Yeah, they knew their problems. And even people in government knew their problems. But perhaps people felt that it was a done deal. And we've never had this sort of defeat where an incumbent could lose as such. But for me, I don't take it as a failure on the part of the candidate if you proceed on the backdrop that it is the voters who have the power. You understand? And the other day when we were on this program and Dr. Farijan in the seminar or symposium recently made the point that is vigilance. And indeed, there could be attempts or people who will be harboring the intent of manipulating the election. But it is only God who determines the outcome. And if there is vigilance at the polling station level, and indeed what has been established at IPAC and can never be compromised, the decision, and it is good that the new commissioners, or including the 3 officers who are new, because when IEA was running its parallel program, they did not appear to be interested in IPAC for good reasons. And there are substantive officers who have been there for a long time. But this is like you can say, a revolutionary turnaround of the commission. And so it is those who go in there who must have a background of achievements, challenges, and opportunities that had existed, and must not attempt to compromise with it. Because IPAC had made successful advances, great advances. And where we are now with a system that we know that had become entrenched. And indeed, to give credit to Afarijan's commission, anything even involving having a trial at the now biometric voters thing that we now have, there was a meeting. And everything, and IPAC is not made up of, although in real character it is the political parties, but all the stakeholders, including the donors who have been supporting us, are official members of IPAC. You understand? And every support, because of the nature of our law that foreign outside agencies cannot give direct support to parties, any support had come through the Electoral Commission. And so from the time we take a decision to call an election, discussion of the airline that will go to Parliament for the necessary work, which printing setups will print the ballot papers. Our representation at the place where the machine is turning out the booklets and binding them, parties are allowed physical presence. So, and we take note of the parcels and the seals. We are allowed presence. And the commission must know. And when somebody wants to manipulate you and you have the constitutional backing, then you say no, because I don't think any party will compromise. If the ruling party will like, the others will not. Then finally, the day before the election, when we have to now disaggregate materials and transport them to the constituency or district centers, to when we start packaging for each polling station, parties are involved. And when you put all the materials in the box, and tomorrow we know we are going to Kwesimintim LA school or whatever it is, the agents' names have been sent, they have been trained, they have been approved. Officially, they are giving tax. And they must be present when we are sorting materials, and then there is a seal which everybody will write the number, because if you tamper with it the following day, we know there's some fictitious deal in there. In the morning when we have to say, oh, Polly, we came here at 7:30, Sean and his team will be going around and say that at Choco LA, the materials, election, voting has not started. It is because you are waiting for agents to be present to join the vehicle to make sure everybody is well seated. And then agents play a role. They don't disturb, but they play a role because we all have tally sheets. So Ambassador P.Ale comes, we tick, like we are offloading cement from a cargo truck from Tema into his warehouse. At the end of the election, the last fellow at 5 p.m., we know at this polling station, so many people have voted. Then we go through the process and we declare. These have now become established activities leading to our presence, and even the last time, thanks to the former chairperson and her team, everything was displayed. Moving away from the strong room tension. Comrade Kwesi perhaps may tell us something about the strong room, like a dungeon. All these have been made, gains have been chalked and well entrenched in the voting or the electoral process. And so it is rather the duty of the present commission to make sure they advance the cause, but not to compromise on what has been here. Because the outcome of elections, nobody can predict. But it's the will of the people, because the Constitution itself is our will. Just like you die and you leave a will, nobody can change anything. And so, for me, those are the major issues. And you say we're going to have NDC. Is it the system of voting at the polling station or constituencies, or gathering, Congress, where there's that euphoria? I don't know what the party will decide. It's a right of the party to decide the form of congregation that will lead to the voting. But we wish President Mahama well. We wish the other contestants well. And I hope that the other contestants will heed to his call, that we conduct our campaign leading to the Congress or leading to the election on the 7th of December in a manner. And I'm happy also, and I'm buoyed by a statement made by Honorable, he said if he loses, he wouldn't mind becoming a running mate. Spill Gabra. For me, I think it's a statement in the right direction. He said he was sure of winning, but if he lost, he will become which means that definitely there will only be one winner. And if there are about 7 of the contestants, it means there will be more losers than the winner or the winners. And for that matter, you need that sort of camaraderie so that at the end of the day, the party will move in unison. And Ambassador, you know, factionalism or factions exist, but how we manage it. And you say factions don't exist, but somehow unconsciously we're a bit emotional. But how we manage the differences, because you are very convinced about who will be the eventual winner, but that is on the light side.
There are no factions.
There are no factions. No. So that is more gratifying to hear this. Yeah,
if you go for an election, and 97% vote for a candidate, how can you be talking about factions?
So we hope that we will conduct affairs in a manner.
Faction mongress is what I'm like.
That's fine. In a manner that the party will remain united, because that is there are many issues that will engage us leading to next year when the campaign really starts, when maybe all parties have their candidates.
There's a mainstream and there's a fringe.
Thank you very much.
Factions.
Mr. Pratt, you've already started.
That's the description.
You know, for those of us who could watch television, in the late 1960s and early 70s, the Osofudazi show was a must-watch.
Oh, there was nothing other than that.
And indeed, the principal character in the Osofudazi show was Super Odi. And anytime Super Odi was presented with an intriguing situation, so he used to shout, "Abakede." I think we are in a situation where we should be shouting "Abakede." Very interesting things are happening, and very interesting things will continue to happen in the lead up to the 2020 elections. And we shall all see Abakede. Master, you know something? I have seen the results of a survey which was conducted by the Frederick Ebert Foundation. And I take the Frederick Ebert Foundation seriously. It does not do sloppy work. It's been working over the years and so on. When it comes to surveys, it has a reputation. This survey result came up in April of this year. You understand? And the survey result is interesting, perhaps more than interesting. It pulled people in the NDC and wanted to find out who was likely to win the race for the presidential candidature of the party. Indeed, the list of contestants it put together happened to be anybody who had dreams of becoming a presidential candidate. So there were many of them. In fact, the list included Dr. Kwesi Botwe, and all of them And the Frederick Ebert Foundation's poll indicated that the closest person to President John Mahama, former President John Mahama, was scoring 8.7%. This was April this year. 8.7% was the closest to President John Dramani Mahama. That's interesting, isn't it?
Very intriguing.
Exceedingly interesting. But let's put the polls aside. I've heard that there has been another poll which I haven't seen, I haven't read, I haven't analyzed. But I've seen the April 2018 poll and its results, and I've studied it and analyzed it. And it is more than interesting. You know something? 2020 elections. The prayer of the National Democratic Congress for 2020 elections would be that MPP should continue to make mistake after mistake. Every day there should be a scandal hitting the MPP and so on. And that their presidential candidate should be as weak as possible. That is what the NDC wants. On the other hand, the MPP will be exceedingly happy to have a very weak candidate in the NDC. A candidate they can beat. The MPP is not looking for a formidable candidate who is likely to beat their candidate. Indeed, if you take the Convention, People's Party and so on, everybody is praying. Everybody is working to ensure that they win the next election. So, are we going to sit back and listen, pay attention to the preferences of those we are going to contest against? Certainly not. I mean, it will be foolhardy to sit back and allow your opponent to choose your candidate for you. It will be foolhardy to use the measurement of your opponent. Is the MPP going to sit down and allow NDC to decide for them who their candidate should be? No. Certainly not. And if the MPP is not going to sit down and allow the NDC to decide who their candidate should be, why should the NDC sit down and allow the MPP to decide for them who their candidate is going to be? So this is the game. This is the context. So a lot of the noise that we are hearing, they are empty, they are useless, they have no relevance, they should be discarded. Look at where the advice is coming from. Look at who is giving the advice. And if you look at where the advice is coming from and who is giving the advice, I think it's very, very easy to make decisions. You understand? Now, President John Dramani Mahama has declared his intention to contest these elections. Why? Is he not qualified? He is qualified. Nothing disqualifies him. He's qualified. All the others who have declared their intention to contest the elections, are they disqualified? They are not. Let them go ahead and do it. And I've seen this contest over and over again. In one contest, the impression was created that my own very good friend and brother, Mr. Ediala, was a whiskid. You remember that contest? You understand? In another context, the impression was created that the former First Lady was going to sweep the polls and so on. I've seen many contests. There was one contest in which Professor Kwesi Bocho was the undisputed champion and so on. When the ballots was counted, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, the winners were clear. So the pre-election noise and so on is not what determines the outcome. They can't say agro any form, and agro soon will become form very, very soon. You understand? So all these speculations and so on, they are not important. For me, the important issue is this. In all of this context, in all of this noise making and so on, where are the people of Ghana? Because the elections ought to be about the people of Ghana and their destiny. The elections ought to be about the concrete reality of the working people of Ghana. The primaries in all the parties, the national election in 2020, is it going to lead to a situation where more people will have access to potable water? That is the question. Would it lead to a situation where there will be improvement in healthcare? An important factor. Can it lead to having a better system of free compulsory education in our country? That's an important question. To what extent will the people of Ghana own their mineral resources and exploit these mineral resources for their own benefit? Cardinal question. You understand? The election will be about whether or not the 4 years of MPP administration has led to them redeeming the promises they made to the people of Ghana. Have they redeemed the promises they made to the people of Ghana? Do we have a dam in every village in the north? How many constituencies have received the $1 million promise per constituency per year? One district, one factory, what has happened to it? You understand? These are the essential questions. Why? Under President Mahama, did education receive a better boost than we are getting today? What about the level of infrastructural development in our country? These are the key questions. Every other thing is irrelevant. You understand? Why? It was former President John Adekun Kufuor who came up with a very simple, catchy slogan. What did he say? That's all. Check your living and working conditions and make a determination on the basis of your living and working conditions. Right now, as we sit in the studio, there are some indicators which are exceedingly worrying. Earlier in the year, Joy FM published the result of a survey it had conducted, and there were indications that food items, the price of food items, had gone up in some instances by 150%. This is a Joy News survey, not me, not MPP, not NBC, Joy News. 150% increase in the price of food items and so on. All of us know what has happened in the petroleum sector. Indeed, last week, petroleum prices went up again by 2%. Yesterday, I was reading some reports about agriculture, and I was dizzy. Peasant farmers had actually held a press conference to complain that now the supply of free fertilizer is linked to the supply of seeds, and that the seeds that they were giving did not germinate. Peasant farmers, you understand? I read it only yesterday and so on. So there are all of these problems. How do we address these concrete problems that face our people? Now we are being told that new graduates from our educational teacher training institutions and so on will have to sit another examination to obtain a license. Does this policy make sense? In the last election, it was about allowances. This election, it may not be about allowances. It may be about something else. It may be about licensing and so on. So let's focus on the issues. Why? There's a presidential aspirant, not a candidate yet, who thinks that if you're a stammerer, you cannot rise in our society. That's an issue.
It's an issue.
And you can discuss this issue without insulting him, without denigrating him. Does it make sense in a democracy to discriminate against stammerers? Does it make sense in a democracy to discriminate against blind people? Does it make sense to discriminate against hunchbacks and so on? This is an important election issue. So this is what we should be focusing our attention on. This is what the Mahama's former President John Mahama's return ought to be about. These are the concrete issues, you understand? Now, For me, we are living in exceedingly interesting times. You understand? Exceedingly interesting times. And I've been trying desperately, not to get involved in the internal affairs of political parties like MPP, like NDC, and so on. You understand? I've desperately been trying not to get involved in these matters. But you see, sometimes I get sick in the stomach when the fortunes of political parties are heaped on individual preferences and so on. It doesn't make sense. Look, no individual in this country can decide how election results go. No. If you come and you articulate positions and policies which is against the interests of the people of this country, you are out. No matter which individual is behind you. And we have seen that in internal and external elections. Why? Nielante van der Poel, when he was contesting to become a youth organizer of the party and so on, you saw the people who opposed him. And yet he won with a landslide. Haruna Idrisu, now majority leader, when he was contesting elections in Tamale, you saw who went to Tamale to campaign against him, and you saw the results. You understand? President Mahama, 2012, you saw the people who went against President Mahama in the party, and he won. Some people even said that, look, they didn't know how to campaign for him because they didn't see any good thing and so on in him and his government. He won. So why are people going backwards? The evidence is there, and it's so clear that it is about how to promote the welfare and interest of the people. It's not about pandering to individuals and so on. And sometimes I just wonder, why all this is happening. Look, in the 2016 elections, in this studio and many other studios, I heard many people from the NDC saying that, they were so happy that the NPP has selected Nana Akufo-Addo because he was the easiest person to beat in the NPP. You remember? They were jubilating that Nana Akufo-Addo had been elected as flag bearer of the NPP. What happened in the elections on December 7th, 2016? He has won, and he's won by landslide. Look, in 2000, the 2000 election, I'm very happy that Professor Nino Idowona is here. NDC people were deliberately and purposely canvassing for President Kufuor against Nana Akufo-Addo because they believed that President Kufuor was easier to beat. And in fact, when President Kufuor was elected as the presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, they jubilated. If I lie, tell me. But what happened when we went into the elections? President Kufuor won the elections. You understand? So today, it seems to me that people have not learned from history. They haven't learned from history at all. Some people in NPP are saying, how can Mahama win elections? They are behaving the same way elements in the NDC behaved in 2000 and 2016. Let us wait for the elections. It is going to be exceedingly interesting. Now, the other thing that, I see, today if you look at the newspapers, they say that there are 11 contestants in the NDC. How are there 11 contestants in the NDC? How? The contestants are those who have gone through the formal, proper processes of declaring their intention and preparing to contest. 11 people have not gone through the process. You understand? So, I think that, look, everybody has an agenda in this matter. There's nobody who is neutral. So when people talk, find out what the agenda is. Whatever it is, at the end of the NDC Congress or whatever method they choose to select their presidential candidate, everybody, to be clear to everybody, you understand? Everybody's smoothness level will be very clear. Smoothness level, it will be clear. You understand? So Why argue? Why fight anybody and so on? Let everybody carry on and do what they think they have to do. I mean, I'm seeing the trends. You understand? I'm seeing the trends. And I'm sure all of you sitting here are seeing the trends. Oh, baby. Abakide Sobolo one time with
I think what he wants is one bring them go.
That's a kept goes one. Or
You see your smoother level.
Alright, let me read some text messages before the show comes to an end. And this one from Musa Abatwa in Kumasi says, for more indications, JM is unmatched when it comes to NDC presidential race. I find former President Rawlings' caution in order, but I will have thought he would go a step further to caution presidential candidates who are bent on attacking other candidates, because Aban Babin's recent outburst against GM is unfortunate. However, the wicked machinations of newly constituted EC has just begun. These people must be very careful not to jeopardize peaceful atmosphere we are witnessing for a long time. Musa Abat was sent that one through. Charles Nyame says, we thank President John Mahama for responding to the numerous calls to come and save this country from current dangerous hands and take us back to the progress path. Indeed, as a servant leader, Mahama couldn't have just overlooked the deep sense of love and affection for him by the general populace. Regards to the Eastern Regional Chairman, Tewia Boateng and Mark Oliver Kevo, you sent that one through. That Chomo says, I wish to tell ex-President Mahama that his saboteurs are still around him, and if I were him, I wouldn't have picked the form to contest for Congress nor for presidency again. But in any case, I wish him well, but hope that he makes corrections to his flaws when given another chance to lead the NDC. Let me go to Twitter and read some few comments on Twitter and share them with you before we check out of here. Okay, this one from Abil Ahmed says, hi, Sami, please tell Sampi Ali that he did more damage to John Mahama than Aban Babin. How could he describe Mahama's defeat as humiliating defeat? He thinks we don't know what he formed his pro forum for. How many people has he helped, and what defense did he give to Mahama in power? Let me get this one and share that before we check out of here. But from here, all of us will be going to throw our way behind the former Chief of Staff, Julius Debra, as he buries the mother today. And let me share my final comments. This one from A.A. Razak says, the Nana Bawumia government has failed Ghanaians. We need a better change if President Mahama contests. Kafui Agbeko says, good morning, Sam. Greetings to all your discussants. Let all voter delegates remember to vote for Jifa Ativo as chairman of the voter region, George Lowe, secretary, Siki Abibo as organizer, and Egypt Kudoto as youth organizer for Victory for 2020. This one from A.A. Razak says, the decision of former President Mahama to contest is a sign of victory for the NDC in 2020. This one from Neil Lante says, good morning to you, Sami. Let me take the opportunity to welcome on board the chairman of all chairmen, Mr. Danny Annan, into the chairmanship race of the NDC. I know that he is affable. I know that he is competent. I know that he can win the seat for the NDC. May all open their eyes and vote for Danny Annan. Those are a few comments that have come through this morning here on Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk show. Show was proudly brought to us by Apollonia City, and they are giving big, it's almost too good to be true, get rewarded with cars and loads of amazing home appliances when you buy a home or plot of land in the Apollonia Mega Dash promo. A 3-bedroom story at the Oxford gets you a brand new Suzuki Baleno from Silver Star Limited. And any other home also gets you top-notch home appliances. But that's not all. You get loads of quality home appliances for simply buying a service plot in Apollonia City. There are no draws and no raffles. Exciting, isn't it? This promo is running from now to the end of September. Check out their website, www.apollonia.com.gh/mega-dash or call 0275 577 577 for more details. You can also send an email to sales@apollonia.com.gh. Terms and conditions do apply, so please kindly do take note. The only sponsors of the show. Innesfly is also a proud sponsor. If you have bed bags worrying you in your home, at your school, in your church, wherever it is, make sure that you buy it and apply it, and you'll get rid of them. Call them on 0577 701 000. That's the number to call. And we were probably also sponsored by TTA Brothers. They brought us the Ankoti Premium Malt, the Tango Fruit Juice, and then the J2O Orange and Passion Fruit drink, which we use today. Your funerals, your weddings, all your programs, make sure you get that to serve at your occasions. And all right, that should be it for this morning. I am grateful that you joined me. Production has been by Patrick Asfobodu, with support coming from the technical crew, and that was by Kabore. God willing, next week Saturday, the team would be here for another edition of Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. My name is Samuel Chen. It's been a pleasure coming your way with the show. Do have a real blessed morning.